NFL topics today. Before I get right into that, I want to make sure that you're subscribed to a YouTube channel so you get all the updates and all the breakdowns. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Looking at Cam Newton, there was a lot of back and forth this week about Cam Newton and his thoughts. Per se, they talked about if Jalen Hurts is a top 10 quarterback. And a lot of people are saying that Cam is hating on Jalen Hurts. I look at it a little different. I feel like Cam Newton from the process, and if we just take a step back, we just look at the overall process, Cam Newton has been there and done that. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's been an NFL MVP caliber type guy. He's had to hold his team accountable and drag them to the Super Bowl. He's won a national championship in college. He's done a lot of things. So when you're looking at his resume and you're looking at the stuff he's been through, he's looking at it saying, is Jalen Hurts still a top 10 quarterback, even though he doesn't have to do the same work as a Joe Burrow or as a Patrick Mahomes? He doesn't have to lift as heavy because he has a Saquon Barkley. He doesn't have to lift as heavy having two all-pro wide receivers. He doesn't have to lift as heavy having a tight end and an offensive line that's stacked. He doesn't have to lift as heavy knowing he has a defense that, if you look at last year, was historically great. Even in the Super Bowl where they turned it up another notch. But looking at Cam Newton, I don't feel like he's a hater. I feel like he's just telling the truth. When you're in the media and you're actually telling the truth, sometimes it's not going to come off as favorable. You can't always be friends with people. You can't always he and ha ha. Sometimes you just got to say, hey, the counterpart that we're comparing them to may be a little different. And I think that Cam Newton kept it critique-wise to football. He wasn't talking personal about Jalen Hurts. He wasn't going back and forth with people about, something Jalen's did in the media or the news. No, he's talking strictly about football. And I think that a lot of the people that came after Cam brought up he didn't jump on the fumble in the Super Bowl. They brought up things that had nothing to do with it. So when he's talking about if somebody's a top 10 quarterback, it became personal for some. Now, I want to say this. He cooked Gilly the Kid. He cooked Terrell Owens. He cooked Dan Orlovsky. He cooked all those folks. But from the standpoint, Ryan Clark took the high road, and I think that's good for him. But overall, if we're looking and examining at what Cam talked about, Cam is talking about something that it made logical sense. It wasn't like it was off topic. It wasn't like it was off kilter. Cam had points. So when you're thinking about the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson still has to do stuff even though he has pretty good lineup. Patrick Mahomes, the same thing. And again, you're talking about some of the best of the best. We're talking about the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL where there's a clear-cut difference between the first tier and the second tier. Again, I don't feel like Jalen Hurts is essentially in the top 5. I feel like he's somewhere in the top 10. I don't think he's up there with the Joe Burrows and the Patrick Mahomes. I feel like with the Philadelphia Eagles system, he's given a pass and he's given a break because a lot of what he has to do doesn't revolve around throwing the football. When you have Saquon Barkley, who rushed for basically 2,000 yards, and you have, A.J. Brown, when you have Smith, when you have guys that can essentially hit home runs, as soon as you put the ball in their hands, that's a different ball game. And again, having that type of offensive line where it's been built specifically for you, adding in the tush push, adding in certain features and facets, it's tough. It's tough to critique that on the same page, but at the same time, I think that, Cam Newton had a point. Moving forward, I think that, people have to understand it's a job. And, people get their rocks off, giving their opinions. People get their things off, giving opinions. But I feel like from the standpoint, if you look at Cam's career, look at just what he did at Auburn, where he had to be the guy. He was asked to do everything: sell tickets, kiss babies, raise money for the boosters, score touchdowns, win the Heisman. He did a little bit of everything and didn't have really NFL talent on that roster. Look at the roster he won a national championship with. How many other players actually made a career in the NFL off that team? Wasn't many. Was not many. So you got to ask yourself from the standpoint, is Cam qualified to give that comment? Is he qualified to critique? I feel like it's yes. So for future, conversations, when Cam gives a critique, if you don't have a critique that's football related, it's just like, keep your comments to yourself. That's just where we are with sports. That's just where we are. People are sensitive sometimes. People, I guess, want to be buddy-buddy sometimes, and they want to give the politically correct answer and say, oh, well, this person's this. If you feel something different, you feel something different. That's just the way it goes. That's sports. And I think that people have to realize, in the setting of when we're debating who's great, who's average, who's just regular, You're going to have these type of debates. You're going to have these type of conversations. That's just what it boils down to. I don't think nobody is above reproach as far as when it comes to that, but I think that we have to reel it in. I feel like we have to understand that when, guys that have played the game of football give their opinion, it's not always hate. I know sometimes we hear about older players, giving the younger guys agita for stuff they do or the way that they play, but when it's all said and done, these guys are out here giving their heart and soul. They're out there busting their butts. And Jalen Hurts is a hell of a competitor. He's a hell of a quarterback. And that doesn't need to be erased or forgotten in the grand scheme of things. I think that just for this conversation, I think people got a little emotional. People jumped the gun just a little bit, and you saw exactly how, that kind of spiraled out for the media. A lot of this stuff was for social media, clickbait. And again, they're colleagues, so they're going to see each other at some point in time. Football season's right around the corner, and Ryan Clark is a fixture on ESPN. So it's one of those things where you're going to see them back and forth. You're going to see them have difference of opinions, and I think that they're made up by now. I know on social media, Ryan Clark made a critique giving Cam his credit for his things that he's actually done successful in his field of work. And again, everybody's different with the way that they critique stuff and the way that they go about things. But I think that that's water under the bridge now. I think both these guys are better. The conversation was a good conversation. It was good back and forth for a little bit. And it just goes to show you people's perspectives is different. When you have different perspectives and you don't always agree, that makes for a good conversation sports-wise. That makes for a good bit of, banter back and forth. And essentially, people get their feelings hurt, they get their feelings hurt. But, besides that, that thing is supposed to get better. Looking at some of the releases, I looked at NFL Network today. If you guys, and welcome in, guys, if you're new to the platform, I want to welcome you to Sports Choice Plus. This is YouTube sports banter, commentary. And I looked at NFL Network, and I saw Manti Te'o. Manti Te'o is a member of NFL Network, and he released his top 10 list of linebackers, middle linebackers, if you will. But overall, for me, I just want to focus on the top 5. I think it's an interesting list, and I like the interesting part about it. I think we're going to start at number 5 with Roquan Smith. When you look at Roquan Smith, he's 5 on the list, and I think that's a little low for him. And I think that's because there's so many pieces on the Baltimore Ravens. If you look at them just adding Jair Alexander, they're adding embarrassment of riches to the team. He has to do less and less more as far as his actual job. When you have quality guys that are either all-pro or close to all-pro or could be Pro Bowlers, it makes your job a lot easier because they're making the tackles, they're making the interceptions, they're making the deflections, they're doing what they need to do, making sure guys aren't catching touchdowns on them, and it makes your job easier. I think that he's a hybrid linebacker that, he's an old school thread linebacker, and he's one of those big guys that will go and tackle you. He'll go assist with the run. Well, as far as the running backs go, he'll go assist with the pass as well. And I think that when he gets into not only that space where he has to just play lights out, I think he does well. And I think they got it right at number 5. It's still a little low for me, but coming in number 4, this guy is literally still kicking. And you're looking at year 14 for him in the league. Levante David, when you look at just the renaissance of how he's playing the game, his ability to still keep up with the smaller guys, the ability to still run, break off, shed line, offensive linemen, shed off tackles, and essentially get to the quarterback, essentially get to the running back, essentially get to the tight end or the wide receiver and make plays. I think that, he's still showing you how to play football. He's still showing you the name of the game and how essentially when you got a guy that can ball out, it doesn't matter how old he is, if he's disciplined in his actual playing, as far as his preparation, watching, and doing things like that, you're going to see an ability to him to pop out and for him to do what he does. I think it's refreshing. I like it. I like it a lot. I think David brings a lot to the table as far as what he does for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's a leader on that team, and he's helping them excel. He's helping them not only be great, but what they're doing in the meantime is helping develop that defense that is a younger defense in Tampa, that is learning how to win, that is learning how to process the game the right way. And I like where they're going with that. So David being at 4 is good. Dre Greenlaw, when you look at the Denver Broncos, he's going to come with a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of fervor, a lot of passion. He plays with a lot of passion. And it just goes to show you at 28 years old. He has a lot to offer. I know he's got hurt already and is going to be back at some point in time during the season. But you got to think the ability to play linebacker like he does, to forget mistakes, to be loose, and to get after the quarterback and the running backs is a hell of a job. He literally helped the 49ers when they didn't have a lot of pieces on defense. When he's making plays, I think that it's kind of contagious. It passes on to the next guy, and you see that there's a channel of energy where everybody starts picking up plays, everybody starts making plays. He's going to be great for Denver. Coming in number 2, as we know, Superman, Fred Warner, the consistent linebacker for the 49ers. He does everything for them, everything that they asked. He's got 125 tackles last season plus, and you think that, okay, how do you slow him down? How do you put him in a mix where he can't do it? When they throw the ball to one side of the field, he still seems to cover over there. When they throw it to the other side, he seems to still get over there too. I think it's from a standpoint of a lot. And coming in, I got you, Tony. But number 1 is Bobby Wagner. This is a model of consistency. When you look at him for the Washington Commanders, even when he was with the Seahawks, even for the year he went there with the Rams, he's been a model of consistency over and over and over and over again. I think that not only is he somebody that sniffs out the plays pre-snap, but you're seeing somebody that essentially goes back and forth and makes sure that the schemes all over are even. He's the quarterback of the defense. He makes sure that the Commanders' defense is where they need to be. He did it for so many years in Seattle. Remember, he was the Madden player, the 99 player, one of the first linebackers to get 99 in Madden. And he's 10-time Pro Bowler plus, and he plays at a high level. He's smart. He dissects plays before they happen, and you see the reason why he has 100 tackles every year, because he's smart. He's textbook. He knows how to play gaps. He knows how to get to the shortcuts and play with good leverage. And I think Manti Te'o got the list right. The top 5 is pretty solid. I like most of those. Tony, you asked a question about the NBA Finals. Who makes the finals next season? For me, it's tough because it's so much that we haven't seen yet. So from the standpoint of, I feel like the Lakers still have moves that they have yet to make, that they can still make. I feel like there could be some movement still that we haven't seen in the NBA, whether it be a team that's already made big moves or teams that we haven't. Being that there's the apron and stuff like that, it makes it hard to really call what things are. I like the Atlanta Hawks and what they've done this offseason. I also like Orlando, how they've improved. Cleveland's made small improvements. You know that Boston's essentially broke down their team and made trades. New York Knicks made a oppressive move with Clarkston. They have it's a couple of different moves on the East Coast, but I think the Atlanta Hawks have a leg up. I think that we could see the Knicks back into the mix or Orlando. Those are my 3 picks as far as who potentially could go. I don't believe in Cleveland. As good as Cleveland is as a regular season team, I don't believe in them in the playoffs. I think it's tough. And I think that between the Denver Nuggets and the Oklahoma City Thunder, my favorite team traded away. Yeah, they traded them to the Hawks. If Porzingis is healthy, he's going to have that Hawks team in the finals. When you think about Trae Young, when you think about Johnston, when you think about just the pieces that they have a young nucleus mixed with an old nucleus, mixed with veterans that are great. So you got to think Trae Young leading the way and getting all these assists, all these young guys getting playing time. And you got to think the Hawks have been on the verge of the playing game every year the last couple of years. Remember, they went to the Eastern Conference Finals just a couple of years ago. So they've been on the cusp of being great on the East Coast. So I think the moves that they've been making this offseason have pushed them to the place where they are now. On the West Coast, I think it's, he was always out, plus Tatum. Yeah, exactly. I think Oklahoma City and the Denver Nuggets are going to meet up in the conference finals. I like what the Clippers have been doing. The Clippers have a veteran-laced group, but you got to think, are you going to be healthy at the end of the year? Are you going to have Kawhi? Are you going to have CP3? Are you going to have Bradley Beal? Are you going to have James Harden? Are you going to have all these guys that are older healthy? That's one of those questions you really got to ask. You really got to talk about. And I think that Oklahoma City has the formula right now. Denver has the formula with all the pieces that they brought back, with all the things that they've done and the trades that they made. They've got not only a solid 5, but they've got a solid 6, 7, 8 as well. When you think about that bench presence, they got 4 to 5 guys that can come off the bench. Not only do they have the former MVP, but you got to think they have, the Spurs and Rockets. I don't think they're contenders yet. The Spurs have to learn how to win, and the Rockets don't have all the pieces to make that work yet. I don't trust the Houston Rockets as far as that goes. Yes, they have Udoka as a coach, but you got to think Kevin Durant has to fit in on this team. Who's going to be that dog? Is it going to be Thompson? Is it going to be Fred VanVleet? Who's going to be the leader of the team? That Kevin Durant doesn't like to be a leader. He's already said it. He just wants to play basketball. There has to be a leader. Getting rid of Jalen Green, that was a lot of points. That was a lot of shooting. That was a lot of scoring. Who's going to fill out that roster as far as the shooter, the highest shooter on the team as far as volume goes? Who's gonna excel in crunch time? So Kevin Durant is still almost 40 years old. No matter what we think, Kevin Durant is still almost 40 years old, if that makes sense. So I don't know what you can expect out of a 40-year-old Kevin Durant. And they've got bigs down there. So, but I don't think that Houston has the roster currently constructed to win a title. They can still make the playoffs. That doesn't mean that they won't. I just think that right now it's just not what I think is going to be. Overall, I think that, maybe it's different. Maybe it's different, but I think it's giving a lot of Houston Rockets fans excitement. It's giving a lot of opportunity for them to think, okay, we're going to make this playoff run. But from that standpoint, I don't know yet. I don't know just yet. But that's a good question, though. That's a very good question. There's been a lot of buzz about the Cleveland Browns. Shador Sanders possibly being cut. That's one of the things that they were talking about, And if he does, there's going to be suitors to find him. He's good enough to where he could do that. I think he can end up in a good situation. So. But overall, this is your Sports Minute. I meant to just spend a couple minutes here, but I've been spending over 15 minutes. But definitely check out Sports Choice Plus for all the breakdowns and all the updates. Again, if you're in the need for sports, if you want to see something debated, you want to see a topic covered, feel free to put it in the comment section under my videos, and we'll definitely check you out. And as always, we thank you so very much. We appreciate it big time, and I'll see you on the next episode.